Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome to everybody to this Wednesday evening Sutta class. And the Sutta tonight is number 8 in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Salleka Sutta, and that's translated as effacement. Now this word effacement is not that common of a word, even in English, I mean, in sort of common parlance. But the meaning is basically to gradually overcome or make smaller and eliminate some certain thing. Now, in the medical dictionary, a term, it refers to the making smaller some physical things in the body. But in terms of the Dhamma, it's about effacement, overcoming or weakening the defilements in the mind. And this sutta specifically, it talks about 44 modes of effacement, of getting overcoming defilements. But as we all know, all defilements are basically fed by the ego and feed the ego. They're fed by the ego, and they feed the ego too. That's the way the ego gains its strength, is by indulging in its various defilements and the karma accumulated by that. So this is a talk about the Buddha explains 44 ways of self-effacement. Now, a lot of people, the idea of no self, a lot of people have asked, how do we get rid of this self? It's so tricky and so deep, and yeah, that's true. And that's why there's no just one way of overcoming it. And in the Sutta, the Buddha explains 44 modes of self-effacement, or weakening and eliminating the concept or feeling of I, me, mine that is, deeply embedded in our consciousness. So anyway, this talk occurred at the Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, and a certain monk named Maha Chunda, or Kunda, went to see the Buddha after his evening meditation, and he tells the Buddha, "Venerable Sir, various views arise in the world associated either with a doctrine of self or with doctrines about the world, and especially the doctrines about is the self eternal or not, or neither, or both neither or not, and is the world eternal or finite, and so on." Because again, these were the views that the various other ascetics would hold and about the self and the world, and would often, ask the Buddha about them or dispute them. So, and then he asked the Buddha, does the abandoning and relinquishing of those views about the self or the world come about in a monk who is attending only to the beginning of his meditative training? So that means if those views only come about in somebody who has not yet attained stream entry. Because if a person has attained stream entry, then he would have overcome the view of self, or the personality view, of believing that this self is some kind of a permanent, stable phenomenon, or equivalent to somebody's soul, and it doesn't change. So, the doubts about this come if a person has not attained stream entry. Then doubts about this self will still persist in the person's mind, and therefore these views would still be there. Because the attainment of stream entry occurs when one has that definite, complete, or momentary transcendence of the ego consciousness, in which the consciousness is momentarily or briefly, that the feeling of self and I and others is totally transcended. And it's a very powerful experience, so a person is not going to really forget that. But it's only the belief in the self. But the feeling or this sensation of an I that still lingers in the consciousness is still there, but the person now knows that it's an illusion. Before he thought maybe it is, or maybe it isn't, because it feels so real. Okay, so and then the Buddha replies to them, Kunda or Chunda, as to these various views that arise in the world about doctrines of self or doctrines about the world, if they are seen as it actually is with proper wisdom, this is not mine, this am I not, this is not myself, then the abandoning and relinquishment of those views comes about. But if they're not seen with the proper wisdom as they actually are, that means having that experience of entering the stream that I just mentioned, then they can still not be, overcome, or person finds it harder to relinquish that view. And then the Buddha goes on to tell that now, in attaining the jhanas, now attaining stream entry is based on, developing insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta. Whether you use the jhanas as the basis for developing the insight, or using the Satipatthana Sutta, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 7 factors of enlightenment. So, but the Buddha now is going to explain the jhanas, the 4 form jhanas, the rupa jhanas and the arupa jhanas, the formless spheres, as ways that people think that they are practicing self-effacement. So, he says, it's possible that somebody enters the first jhana and they might think, I'm abiding in effacement. Because when you're in that jhana, the sense of self would be very, very negligible because of the concentration. So he might think that he has overcome the sense of I. But then the Buddha explains that it is not these attainments of the jhanas that are called effacement in the Noble One's discipline. These are called pleasant abidings here and now in the Noble One's discipline. So, the jhanas or talked about as the pleasant abidings here and now, but not talked about normally as associated with cultivating directly the insight. Although they could be, but it's a much more difficult process. And then he goes through all those jhanas. I'm not going to read all of them. And each one, the person thinks that they're abiding in effacement. The second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, the sphere of infinite space, the sphere of infinite consciousness, nothingness, and neither perception nor non-perception. So in each of those, even the sense of I would be getting less and less, like receding way, way, way back into the background, as in the case with neither perception nor non-perception. It would be so faint that the person could, really assume that, he'd overcome the ego. But when he comes out of the meditation, the ego comes back, the sense of I, in a more strong way in the defilements. Now the Buddha explains what he regards as effacement. So he says, now, Chunda, here effacement should be practiced by you. Others will be cruel. We shall not be cruel. Effacement should be practiced thus. Others will kill living beings. We shall abstain from killing living beings. And he goes through basically and goes through all of the 10 unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. Others will steal, we shall not steal. Others will be uncelibate, we shall be celibate. Others will speak falsehoods, malicious speech, harsh speech, gossip. We will abstain from those kind of speech. Because in all those kind of actions, one is building up the sense of I. I mean, you kill or cheat or lie or steal. It's all motivated by me. What am I going to get out of this? I, me, or mine. So, but when you abstain from those, then you are, depriving the ego of its food. And that's why it's, it's called the real effacement. I mean, over a long period of time, of course. So they go through all those and 10 unskillful actions, and they go over the Noble Eightfold Path. Others will be of wrong view. We shall be a right view. That's how effacement should be practiced. Others will be of wrong intention. we shall be of right intention. And again, so he goes through all the Eightfold Path, the wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, or be of wrong concentration. Now, sometimes people ask, what is a wrong mindfulness? They think mindfulness should always be wholesome. Well, mindfulness is one thing, but right mindfulness is another thing. Right mindfulness always has the Eightfold Path and right concentration supporting it. And it has a clear comprehension with it. It has wisdom with it. So a person can be mindful. That means, okay, I know I'm standing, I'm mindful, but there may not be wisdom with that. They're still thinking, I am standing, when it's just 5 aggregates are standing. When there's wise attention, when there's right mindfulness, you understand that there isn't a self or me, a permanent entity that's standing. It's just these aggregates that's powered by desire and delusion and, their karma doing all these things. So that's part of the right mindfulness. And actually they go over the Eightfold Path, but they actually go over the Tenfold Path, because after others will be of wrong concentration, we shall be of right concentration. Others will be of wrong knowledge, we shall be of right knowledge. Others will be of wrong deliverance, we shall be of right deliverance. Effacement should be practiced. So the knowledge and deliverance refers to the 4 stages of enlightenment. And so actually that's the Tenfold Path. But normally we talk about the Eightfold Path. That leads up to, that's before attaining stream entry. Then once you attain stream entry, then you add the factors of right knowledge, because you get path knowledge, and right deliverance. That means you've been delivered from the 3 lower fetters in terms of stream entry. And then with each succeeding path, more fetters are eliminated. So until one attains the stream entry, one is practicing the Eightfold Path. Only when one has reached the Sotapanna and further, one is practicing the Tenfold Path. And then from there, they mention the hindrances. Others will be overcome by sloth and torpor. We shall be free from sloth and torpor here. Effacement should be practiced thus. Because in indulging, when you feel drowsy, you kind of lose the sensations of pain, and people kind of like that because there's no pain, nothing much happening. So the ego, doesn't get effaced when you're dealing with sloth and torpor. But when you're gaining concentration and you've overcome that, awareness is starting to shine, and then you do. So it goes to the restlessness, doubts, anger. And then he lists some others, and this is very interesting. It's a very nice, exhaustive list, and it's good to remember how ways that we exercise and strengthen the ego. Others will be resentful. We shall not be resentful. Others will be contemptuous. Others will be insolent. But you might have to go to the dictionary to find out the meaning of some of these words. Others will be envious. Others will be avaricious. Others will be fraudulent. Others will be deceitful. Others will be obstinate. Others will be arrogant. Others will be difficult to admonish. We shall be easy to admonish. Others will have bad friends. Others will be negligent. We shall be diligent. Others will be faithless. Others will be shameless. Others will have no fear of wrongdoing. Others will be of little learning. We shall be of great learning. Others will be lazy. We shall be energetic. Others will be unmindful. We shall be established in mindfulness. Others will lack wisdom. We shall possess wisdom. Others will adhere to their own views, hold on to them tenaciously, and relinquish them with difficulty. But we shall not adhere to our own views or hold on to them tenaciously, but shall relinquish them easily. So that's the, in all those things we went through, that's the 44 ways of effacement. And then that's like, actually not doing those things. But then he goes on to tell Kunda, I say that even the inclination of the mind towards wholesome states is of great benefit. So what should be said of bodily and verbal acts conforming to such a state of mind? Therefore, he goes on and repeats all of those 44 modes of effacement, but using the inclination of the mind. So the mind should be inclined thus. Others will be cruel, we shall not be cruel. Even thinking about it, even before you've actually, not been cruel, thinking about let others be cruel, we shall not be cruel. And then mentioning going through all those same 40 classifications. Let others adhere to their own views, we shall not hold on to our own views, and so on. And then he goes on to say avoidance. He repeats them again, all 44 modes, by avoiding. So he gives him he gives Chunda a little simile or analogy. He says, suppose there were an uneven path and there was also an even path by which to avoid it. So suppose there were an uneven ford and another even ford by which to avoid it. So a person is given to cruelty, has non-cruelty by which to avoid it. One given to killing living beings has abstention from killing living beings by which to avoid it. And so, we're having all of these means to avoid the opposites. I mean, it's basically kind of saying the same thing just over and over, but the Buddha quite often repeated a lot of the same lists and mental factors and practices in slightly different ways of terminology, just to sort of cover all the bases, not to leave any stone unturned in terms of, well, you didn't teach me. Oh, well, yeah, look at you. You're there, avoid cruelty by practice. You got non-cruelty to avoid it. And one given to wrong knowledge has right knowledge by which to avoid it, and so on. So And then, if that wasn't enough, he goes on to tell Kunda, just as all unwholesome states lead downwards and all wholesome states lead upwards, so too a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty to lead him upwards. And repeats the same thing. One has right knowledge to lead them upwards, as opposed to going downwards with wrong knowledge. And then in the end, the way of extinguishing. So again, this is about the fifth or sixth category of repeating the same 44 ways, but about extinguishing. And he gives another a nice little simile. And one who is sinking in the mud should pull out another who is sinking in the mud is impossible. So if a person himself is sinking in the mud, and he grabs somebody else who's also next to him sinking in the mud, and tries to pull him out, he won't, because he's also sinking in the mud. But one who is not sinking in the mud, if they then help somebody who is sinking in the mud, then that is possible that they would be able to pull them out. So in the same way, one who has untamed himself, undisciplined himself, with the defilements unextinguished, should tame another, discipline another, and help extinguish the defilements in another. That is impossible. But one who has tamed himself could help extinguish another person's defilements by teaching and being an example. So he says, a person given to cruelty has non-cruelty by which to extinguish it. They're talking about extinguishing. Again, this is just different ways of saying basically pretty much the same thing. So he goes through all those 44 ways again. So at the end, he says, Kunda, the way of effacement has been taught by me. The way of inclining the mind has been taught by me. The way of avoidance has been taught by me. The way of leading upwards has been taught by me. And the way of extinguishing has been taught by me. What should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them, that I have done for you, Kunda. There are these roots of trees, these empty huts. Meditate, Kunda. Do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is our instruction to you. So that's what the Buddha said, in the Venerable Maha Kunda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So, that is the discourse on effacement, or overcoming the defilements. Because again, all those defilements basically have the ego as their root. And so until one has reached the stream entry, one is not yet really practicing effacement, because that's when the infrastructure or substructure of the ego consciousness has been weakened by overcoming the personality belief. Okay, so let's see if there's any chats. Okay, one question. This sutta indicates that even attaining neither perception nor non-perception state is not enough to efface the sense of self. What is beyond these states of mind? What is the locus of the sense of self? The locus of the sense of self is ignorance. Good old ignorance. And ignorance is not overcome by attaining the jhanas. Not in just by attaining the jhanas, for a couple of hours just to rest in that those very exalted states of concentration. That is only temporary suppressing, basically. So even the state of neither perception or non-perception, because it's a contrived state, and people stay in it for a few hours, they come out, but again, it had not gone down to the root of ignorance, because it didn't really develop any wisdom. It was just an experience people had where the self temporarily, gone away. I mean, look, you can go to sleep and you temporarily you efface the ego, right? When you're in deep sleep, you have no awareness, so your sense of self has subsided, but it hasn't been eliminated, right? Because when you wake up, then there it is. So now only beyond the state of neither perception nor non-perception is what is called the cessation of feeling and perception. But it is said that attaining that state can only be done by a person who's an anagami or an arahant, because of the wisdom that's is accumulated through those attainments, as well as attaining all the jhanas. So, I don't think many people are going to be attaining that soon. It says, can you recommend a sutta that explains a type of unwholesome speech, like useless speech? Well, there's the Mahasatipatthana Sutra that goes into explaining the, useless speech. I mean, basically, useless speech is anything that's not the Dhamma, basically. So, it's, the Buddha has some pretty hard lines in the sand to cross. So, but it's useless speech is just idle chit chat, talking about sports and beauty queens and politics, and just because you don't have no Dhamma to talk about, you just let the mind, or telling jokes and so on. So basically, useless speech is considered anything that's not Dhamma. But there's the unwholesome speech are those four categories of false speech, malicious speech, harsh speech, and useless speech. I mean, those are pretty much straight forward, except the useless speech, yeah. But I can't quote an exact sutta except for maybe the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, but there's some other sutras. Somebody, John Wilson or somebody else, might be able to put up a reference to a particular sutta. Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned your name, John. maybe you can't do that, so don't feel bad. One could consider these effacements as specific ways and methods of practicing right effort. That's right, of course. It's part of right effort. Because, people practice wrong effort. I mean, the effort to do the unwholesome things. But the effort to abandon the unwholesome things, that's the right effort. And to make them, strengthen them, to make them automatic. Yeah. I'm not clear which views the sutta is discussing. Are they the same views discussed as in the ticket of views? Yeah, they're just all the different kind of wrong views. Just any type of views that people cling to about, the world, the self, or other things. It's not Dhamma, could be considered wrong views. Okay, Prashant is saying if somebody wants to ask a question in person, you can feel free to raise their hand. Okay, people can do that if they like. Here's another chat one. Based on the sutta conclusion, meditation will lead to self-effacement. Is this correct? Thank you for your teaching. Yes, but only, the satipatthana. That means the developing the 7 factors of enlightenment and insight into the 4 noble truths. Not just practicing, let's say, other forms of meditation, such as concentration techniques, or even just practicing metta or other things like that. They have all their own positive benefits, but they don't necessarily will lead one unless one uses those meditations to go on to develop insight. Okay. Prashant, anybody raise their hand?
Not yet, Bhante. Bhante, I have a question.
Okay.
So, Bhante, everything is Dhamma. It's not just the wholesome and unwholesome. So, what is a good definition of Dhamma? Because every Dhamma is Sankhara, or Dhamma is the only truth which leads to your Nibbana. That's the Dhamma. So, can you clarify more on Dhamma?
There's conditioned Dhamma and unconditioned Dhamma. A Dhamma is anything that's made up, that's created. Only Nibbana was never created, it's the unborn. But even the Dhamma is conditioned. The 4 noble truths was, conditioned. And, attaining the jhanas are conditioned. But so Dhammas, when we say Dhamma, of course, it's Sankharas are Dhamma, but they're unwholesome Dhammas. So they're unwholesome Dhammas, and then there are wholesome Dhammas. So wholesome Dhammas are abstaining from killing, lying, cheating, malicious speech, all those 10 unwholesome actions, and abstaining from wrong views and so on. So whatever, basically, the Dhamma virtually means everything, conditioned as well as unconditioned. But the ones that are motivated by greed, hatred, and delusion, those are the ones that bring suffering. But the wholesome Dhammas, as all those factors of the 37 factors of enlightenment or so on, they're also Dhammas, conditioned Dhammas, but they lead eventually to the unconditioned. Whereas all the unwholesome Dhammas just lead to more and more suffering. whereas the wholesome Dhammas, which are, the Dhamma, when we talk about Dhamma, the Buddhist teaching, then everything in that is considered a wholesome, the wholesome Dhammas, because it's leading to the weakening and overcoming of the defilements that bring suffering.
So this Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami is like, so that we meant to this wholesome Dhammas. That's what Buddha meant. But Dhamma includes everything overall.
Yeah.
Conditions.
Yeah, in the greater sense. So when somebody practices, say, I'm practicing Dhamma, well, they could be practicing killing, cheating, lying, everything else. Well, yeah, but that's not Dhamma, what we use it, So generally people understand that, of course. But that's why, there's the saying, Sabbe Sankara Anichati, Sabbe Dukkha, Sabbe Sankara Dukkhati, and Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. So the Sankara are used for anicca and dukkha, but that's not including the Dhamma of Nibbana. So Dhamma of Nibbana is the unconditioned. That's why it says Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. That includes the Nibbana, because that's what people took to be the self. The Brahmins and others, they attain these states of formless attainments and other, and they took it to be the self. We covered that in the last sutta, the Chula Siyanada Sutta, the Lion's Roar, I believe it was. So.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
There are some more things, some things in chart.
Do you have the past discussions in online? They're all on YouTube. All the previous sutta classes are on YouTube. So the Lion of Wisdom YouTube channel. So
I think
you can look up those.
It may be hard to find on the YouTube together, but if you go to Lion of Wisdom's website, then you have
go to our website and then click on the videos, and then scroll down to where it says Lion of Wisdom YouTube channel. Click that, and then you will see all the current sutta classes and talks I've been giving in the last 6 months.
I apologize. I
go back through those.
Noise on my line, but what is the name again? I'm sorry. What is that? I missed that first portion. What website I should go to?
The Lion of Wisdom.
Lion of
website, okay. My website.
Okay, thank you.
Lionofwisdom.org. Yeah, or no, it's just lionwisdom.org.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see. Is restraint of the senses important, leading to self-effacement? Of course. That's what we read. Abstaining from killing beings, restraint from the senses, is denying the ego its food, because one of the aharas, the foods, is contact and feeling. So that is what activates the self. So when you restrain, like, you have a craving for some kind of food, and you restrain yourself. or restrained from watching a TV program, or anything. When you restrain, in some way you are practicing self-effacement at that time, so to speak. And that's why, the precepts, 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts, the monks, Vinaya, all those are ways of practicing effacement, because they deny us just to the freedom to just do whatever we want. Because the ego is always going to go the path of least resistance. The sense of self comes from ignorance. A lot of definitions of ignorance. Ignorance of Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. All those religions say the problem of ignorance and wisdom. Ignorance and wisdom destroys the ignorance, but each redefines both words. Don't make it so difficult, yeah, different religions will have their own ideas about ignorance and so on, but I just pay attention to the Buddha's definition of ignorance, and again, it was ignorance means the ignorance that keeps us bound in suffering. We don't have to analyze other religions and find commonality in them necessarily, because if you do, that's when you might, then get confused. When people say all religions are the same, they all lead to the same place. Well, I'm not so sure. But if you're interested in where the Buddha's teaching leads to, then that is what, this, 4 foundations of mindfulness leads to only one place. That's what he said. For the overcoming of, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. For entering the right path to the end of suffering. If that's what you want, then you follow this. You don't need to necessarily worry yourself about other teachings. Animal talk. Oh yeah, okay, so somebody's listing Anguttara Nikaya, a book of tens, I guess, on animal talk. Okay, so you can look up that sutta. Thank you, John, for listing that. Anyway, I think we'll finish this discussion now. Okay, so there was a lot of good questions, and yeah, the Pali word there is the Salleka Sutta, where I guess Bhikkhu Bodhi is the one who, his translation, the one that I usually consult. He uses that Salleka for the effacement. Okay, so let's take a short break to use the restroom or take a drink of water or just stretch your legs and come back in a few minutes. We'll do a few stretches and then have our meditation. Okay, so stand straight, relax your arms at the sides, gently close your eyes, just feel your feet pressing the floor. Then begin some deep, slow breathing, the three-part breathing, drawing the air from the lower lungs up through the middle to the upper part of the chest. Feel that expansion in the upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. And feel the contracting out breath, the relaxation of the contracting out breath. Letting the mind get centered in the body. Take a couple more deep, slow breaths like that. On the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, arch the lower back a bit, stretch upward. Out breath, turn the hands down and touch the top of your head. And again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, head back. Out breath, touch the top of the head. Once more, in breath. Hold that upward stretch longer. Feel the sensation. Release the fingers on the out breath. Bring the arms back to the side. Relax and close the eyes. Just focus on the body sensations. Just try to feel some increased body sensations, pulsations. Or even just the sensations of the clothing touching the skin. Or if you can't feel anything, just remember standing, standing, standing. And then next on an in-breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head. And this way, it's facing the hands together about 6 inches apart. Stretch. Out breath. Come back down. Arms to the side, heels to the floor. Use the breath to help lift and lower the body, like blowing up a helium balloon. In-breath. Out. Once more, in. Stretch. Out. Relax. Just keep feeling the body. Don't allow the mind to wander. Feel the feet pressing the floor, the arms and hands at the side. Clothing touching the skin in different places. Or any prickling sensations, or any aches or pains from doing the exercise. Just letting go of your thoughts. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the feeling of the body in the front of the awareness. We now spread the feet apart about 3 feet and hold the arms out. We're going to do twisting from side to side. So breathe in. Look at your right hand on the out breath. Twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. On the in-breath, come back to the front. And let the feet turn with the body. Then the next out-breath, twist to the left. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In-breath, front. Again to the right, out-breath. In-breath, front. Once more to each side. Lower the arms, relax. Just feel the sensations in your shoulders. Just feel each foot pressing the floor. Just remember standing, standing. And we'll do side bending, keeping the feet apart. Breathe in. On an out breath, bend over the right side, letting your right hand going to slide down by or below the knee. In breath, lift up. Then the out breath, the other side. In. Again to the right, out breath. In. Out. In. Once more to each side, out breath. Just relax, feel the whole body, each foot pressing the floor, arms and hands hanging at the side. The head balanced on top. Remember standing. Now bring the feet closer back together. We're going to do one last exercise, the backward and forward bending, and holding the hands outward. And it's a powerful exercise, so be careful with it. Don't bend back too far the first time. On an in-breath, raise the arms up as you make a gradual V, spreading the arms out to the side as you bend backward. Look up at the ceiling. Carefully lift up on the in-breath, keeping the arms out at the sides. And then on the out-breath, lower the arms and hands down to touch the floor by your feet if you can. Keeping the legs straight. And begin standing up. Turn the palms outward again. Make the gradual V as you spread the arms out to the side. Bend back. Lift up. Keep the arms out. And out breath. Again, standing up, turn the palms outward, bend back. Lift up, out breath. You finish as you stand up, bring your hands together at the chest. Out breath back to the sides. Feel the whole body. Feel the heart beating, pulsation of blood. One last exercise, the head turning from right to left. On an in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder. Turn your eyes to the left. Look at some spot behind you. In-breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. Look over the left shoulder, turn the eyes to the left. In-breath back to the right. Out breath left. Once more to each side, in-breath to the right. Out breath. On the in-breath, let the head stop in the center. Keep the eyes closed, just feel the whole body. Try to feel subtle vibrations, pulsations, sensation. Just remember standing, standing, standing. Okay, we'll go ahead and come back to our seats. Sitting meditation. Okay, friends, I'm going to turn my video off as normal, so hopefully you'll keep your attentions focused in your own body. Just try to keep the back and the head in a straight line. Just get the body comfortable on your seat. Try to establish the natural inward curve of the lumbar spine. It helps to keep the body upright, to resist the downward pull of gravity. Just gently close the eyes. And just bring your attention down to feel the weight of the body pressing the seat. Just feel where the buttocks, the feet press the floor underneath. Just feel the way the legs are bent underneath. And feel the hands and fingers touching Or to feel some subtle sensations in your hands and fingers. Feel where the different fingers touch together. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the arm. And relax the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the shoulders. And feel the head balanced on top of the spinal column. And keep the chin lifted up, level, parallel to the floor. Try to find the center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. You gently move the whole head and spine backwards a little bit. Come close to that tipping point. It feels like you might tip backwards. And then just come forward just slightly so it's not uncomfortable. Just try to maintain that erect posture. Just feel your face. And imagine or feel the skin of the face stretched over the skull. You feel the lips touching together, the upper lip touching the lower lip. Feel the dryness or moistness of the lip. And feel the tongue laying in the mouth. Feel or imagine the teeth embedded in the gums. And take a few deep, slow breaths to feel the air moving through the nostrils. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds to feel that pause. And feel the air going out through the nostrils. You might even hear the sound of the breathing. Know that with each breath, it carries a life-giving oxygen and life force. Charge up the bloodstream. Charge up the cells of the body. You now feel the eyes in the sockets and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. You might see some light or color or patterns behind the eyes, or just darkness. Just kind of gaze around the eyeballs. If you listen very carefully, you might feel the pulse of the blood in the capillaries of the eyes, or other eye movement. From that point behind the eyes, just let the awareness kind of expand a little bit. Try to feel the outline of the sitting body, kind of all those different places that we were feeling. Kind of just feel them in the periphery, buttocks, feet underneath, hands and arms at the sides, the head on top. Clothing touching the skin in different places. You should be able to kind of just feel that outline of the body, just hold that in the mind's eye. Just know that you're sitting. Be aware of sitting, sitting. Present moment awareness. And then again, do some 3-part breathing, deep, slow breathing. Help oxygenate the blood. Get more connected to the breathing in the body. If you know the 3-part breathing, just draw the air from the lower lung up to the top. Hold the air in the lungs a few seconds to allow time for the oxygen to get into the bloodstream. And feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. Just take a number of these deep, slow breaths to oxygenate the bloodstream and body. Cultivating this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10. Try to gain a better concentration. If you can, still try to take deep, slow breaths. Focus on the expanding and contracting sensation. And with the next expanding in-breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the air in 2 or 3 seconds. And with the contracting out breath, also count to 1. The next expanding in breath, 2. Contracting out breath, 2. Expanding in breath, 3. Contracting out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath, 9. In breath, 10. Out breath, 10. Now discontinue the counting, discontinue any controlled breathing. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled rhythm, but continue to feel it, observe it. Just keep the attention in the center of the body to feel those residual or shorter expanding and contracting sensations. Just simply know when the breath is coming in and know when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. Feel those expanding and contracting sensations of The stomach, rib cage, or chest. Feel the touch of clothing rubbing against the stomach, rib cage, or chest. It expands and contracts. Make that your main focus of concentration. And just remind yourself of the present moment with these simple notes of breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Just remember that much. It's not much to remember. It's breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Just feel the brief pauses between the breath. After the in-breath, there's a brief pause, maybe just a fraction of a second. And after the out-breath, the brief pause. If you can feel those pauses, that's a good state of concentrated awareness. And if you're aware of the pause between the breaths, you'll be there for the start of the next in or out breath. And just try to follow those 4 phases of the breathing in breath, expanding in breath and the pause, contracting out breath and the pause. That's feeling the whole breath body. The in-breath and the pause, the out-breath and the pause. And try to notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It's like a scientist sitting in his laboratory doing an experiment. Focusing on the nuances of the breathing process. How it's always changing. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. Especially with each out breath, feeling the body and mind relaxing more and more into the here and now, the present moment. This breathing body is the natural connection to the present moment awareness. Just letting go of the past and future. Just practicing self-effacement. Because our face is the past and the future. That's how we keep identifying ourselves. you let go of the past or the future, and the sense of I starts to fade into the background. Just breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. And be alert for thoughts sneaking up into the mind, to steal your attention away. You get caught up in thinking, recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thought. Keep coming back to reconnect to the breathing body. Back to breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. And be alert when any aches or pains or other unpleasant sensations pull at the mind. All those sensations are just happening within this larger breathing body. They're also just impermanent, constantly changing. And from time to time, check the posture, straighten up the spine, lift the chin up level to the floor. Be aware of the hindrance of sloth and torpor, or any of the other hindrances. the mind has become centered and relaxed enough, and observing the five aggregates, cultivating the insight, the changing sensation, or identify the aggregates. This is material sensation. This is the feeling. These are perception. These are volitional formations, mental activity. And also the ego consciousness. We should relate to all these five aggregates. This is not me, this is not mine, not myself. It's just the accumulation of the aggregates carried over from past lives to the present life, powered by the past karma and ignorance. That's the right view. If there's too many thoughts, the mind is drowsy. Take some 3-part breaths again. Charge up the bloodstream with oxygen. Get re-grounded, connected, and awake in the breathing body. Keep the mind alert by noticing how quickly the various sensations, thoughts, or sounds just arise and vanish. With those five aggregates, just arising and vanishing continuously. Just open up to the flow of impermanence. Body sensations, thoughts, sound. Just arising and vanishing very quickly. Through the space of the breathing body awareness. And it's all happening by itself. You are not doing it. Sort of get the idea of just being in the balcony seat, just watching the movie of the body and mind, the stream of impermanence, sensations, thoughts, images, sounds. Just arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing. Practicing self-effacement by not giving in to move from any pain, give in to one's desire to move. Remember some of those 44 kinds of self-effacement. Using right knowledge to overcome wrong knowledge. You can imagine and just try to feel this body and mind as being like an empty house with nobody home to answer the call, knocking on the doors and windows. But there's a sensitive microphone in the house that knows but doesn't know, cannot react or identify things. Just the bare awareness arising and vanishing. coming and going, sensory vibrations arising and vanishing through mental space. Just allow that sense of I to just fade into the background. That self-effacement. What sensations or perceptions arise in the body and mind based on that sound contact? Sabbe sankhara anicchati. Sabbe sankhara dukkhati. Sabbe dhamma anattati. Yada panyaya pasati atani bindati dukhi esamaggo visuddhya. All conditioned things are impermanent. All conditioned things have clung to with ignorance, bring suffering. And all the Dhammas, the conditioned Dhammas, as well as the unconditioned Dhamma, are without any owner or controller. They're not self. When one sees these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Okay, now to finish this meditation as before, let's practice, or let's radiate vibrations of metta, friendliness, kindness, best wishes toward ourselves and all beings. Can do that by, help that by doing some 3-part breathing. So again, take some deep, slow breaths. Hold the breath in the lungs for as long as you comfortably can. Just imagining that oxygenated blood being like metta going out to all the cells and tissues of the body, mind, nervous system, tranquilizing them. Feel that relaxing contraction of the out breath, allowing the awareness to rest in the present moment. Just take several deep, slow breaths like that. That's sending metta to your own body and mind. Just thinking along these lines. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. May I be free from greed and hatred, anxiety, worry, and fear, and ego delusion. May I have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May I continue to be able to study the Dhamma and practice meditation to free the mind from confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And continue to take some more deep, slow breaths, and with each out breath, send these same kind of thought vibrations to your family members, relatives, good friends, or if anybody you know is suffering, dying, or has other problems, send them a few out breaths of metta. On the out breaths, just imagine these vibrations, sensations going out of your body and mind. You enter into the bodies and minds of others. With each out breath, just imagine these waves of metta going across the fields, countryside, through the towns, cities, eventually across the whole country. Imagine these sensations going out in all 10 directions off of your body and mind. The 10 directions with each out breath. Eventually covering the whole earth. You can just imagine the whole earth, or just surround the whole earth. This vibrations of pure wisdom, pure love, pure energy. Just with the idea that may all living beings, wherever they might be well, peaceful, and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from pains and sufferings of body and mind, worry, fear, anxiety. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings be able to hear teachings of the Dhamma and practice meditation to free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be able to live peacefully and harmoniously together, understanding the ultimate interconnectedness and interdependence of all things. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Just like a mantra reverberating throughout space. Well, peaceful, and wise. We now invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times. If you like, with the breathing, take a deep breath. Now place the hands at the edge of your knees. Take one more in-breath and stretch your head back and pull the hands against the knees. Arch the lower spine. Feel the sensations on an in